Hold on just a sec. Former President Barack Obama told Peter Hambley that snappy slogans such as defund the police can alienate people, making statements less effective than intended. Says the former president, the key is deciding, do you actually want to get something done, or do you want to feel good among the people you already agree with? This is a snippet of an interview that was published by Axios, linked as a reference in an essay by The Hill, which was posted on Twitter, where I found it. And apologies for taking Twitter seriously. It's a snippet from an interview that, as of my writing this essay, has not been published yet. So I don't know if there's some ulterior motive, some alternate statement being made, or if there's a point being made that I'm not aware of. But this is a... what's a polite way of saying damning? Compelling. This is a compelling enough argument in and of itself that it is worth us examining. This is also a sentiment that many people on the left, including leftist lawmakers, seem to share, as the writer from Axios explains. So it's worth examining in and of its own merits. Now, in my experience, and from what I have seen broadly, there are going to be two kinds of responses to this statement. The first is going to be to explain that defund the police does not mean abolish the police entirely, and that the police are being stretched to their limits, and that there's a lot of stuff that the money from the police can do when it goes to social engineering and yada 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 blah blah blah. This is the bad argument. This is the bad argument because it gives into the idea that people don't understand what defund the police means or why it's necessary. I need to stress again that I don't know because I haven't seen the interview. But I do have a sense of how this statement could end up being contextualized. By saying that defunding the police isn't even bad policy, and that it's something that we should strive towards, but that it's something that's easy to misunderstand and easy to be used against people. And also, lots of stuff about unifying a divided America and healing wounds that will sound nice, but ultimately mean nothing. There is no love lost between me and the former president who could have stopped Mitch McConnell from shitting all over this country and chose not to. But it must be acknowledged that former President Barack Obama is possessed of great oratory skill and great cunning. And so I choose to use the most defensible possible version of this argument that I can come up with. The better way of arguing against this is saying, Mr. Former President. Or just Barry. I'm going to call him Barry because that's his name. Barry, you're wrong. People seem to understand what defund the police means perfectly well. And they seem to like the idea. And we know this because people in all 50 states came out in protest for a month straight in support of defunding the police. It was one of the largest sustained protests in United States history. There is no confusion on this matter. The only reason there appears to be confusion on this matter is because political pundits and media pundits keep saying that there's confusion on this matter. That's not to say that there's no divide between people who are in favor of defunding the police and people who are in favor of... not that. But everybody knows where they stand. This isn't a political divide between well-meaning people. This is a political divide between people who have been the victims of systemic political violence for hundreds of years and who are working to stop that, and the people who have been doing that violence for hundreds of years. And to create some kind of moral equivalence between violent oppressors and people who are working to fight that violent oppression is to take the side of the oppressors. The people who want to defund the police went out on the street for days or weeks or months at a time to protest police violence that was literally happening to them as they were protesting. To say that those people who want accountability, that they need to think over what they were saying just as much as the people who were shooting them in the face with tear gas, is to say to them that you are not paying attention and that you never cared what they were saying in the first place. It's like saying nothing will fundamentally change for the people in power. Besides being outwardly evil, it is maybe not a thing you should say if you are really interested in healing and unification. There's a second thing that I would suggest to Barry if I were to speak to him in person. About voting. People are not stupid. They know when they're being fooled, they know when they're being lied to, and most of the time they know who's doing it. If people don't want to vote for the Democratic Party, it is probably because they understand, correctly, that the Democratic Party doesn't represent their interests. I would suggest to Barry, in fact, that the vast majority of people in this country understand that both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party solely represent the interests of the wealthy, and that they are willing to hurt the American people as much as need be in order to preserve the interests of the wealthy, to the tune of over 300,000 people dead if need be. Or one 9/11 exchange a day, if that hits your ear better. I would tell Barry that if him and his party want people to vote for his party, maybe his party should put people in power who represent the interests of those people. Maybe instead of appointing a nominee for president who promises the wealthy people who are ravaging this country that nothing will fundamentally change for them, they could put in power someone who promises to alleviate the suffering of those people, and maybe uplift them from some of their hardship. And I would suggest to Barry that maybe if there was hypothetically someone who was saying those things and doing those things, and him and the DNC conspired to keep that person out of political office, maybe that's the thing that's really alienating people from the Democrats. But again, all this is speculative. I don't know. Well, that was not fun, and I did not have fun with it. But it is done, and I am done with it. Regular links are in the underbar. That is my Ko-Fi. If you can spare to give me a few dollars for whether you found this entertaining or informative, or just it validated your viewpoints. I still need money to replace the GPU on my computer, so I have a working computer, so I'm not just editing these on my phone, although I'm grateful just to have that. Thank you, the person who did that. You know who you are. I know you do. There's a Curious Cat. Don't go there, I don't have access to it. There's my Twitter, where you can go to see what kind of goofing off I'm doing on Twitter. I'm always goofing off on Twitter. So there's not going to be a video tomorrow, but that's because I'm going to spend tomorrow putting together a list of videos that I'm going to make for the rest of the week. I'm really wanting to do one of these a day and trying to make them under 5 minutes. This was under 5 minutes. I'm making this after I've edited it. But, like, even putting together, like, a 10-minute video or a 7-minute video, as this ends up being, is a process that takes, like, 6 hours. Because you have to go through and there's, like, 10 minutes of dead air for every good read, and you have to go over every line 2 or 3 times. But I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna put my back into it, like I said I would. And next Saturday, I hope I'm going to have that a video about Kyle Rittenhouse, and that'll be very substantial. That's going to be like 20 minutes. So, yeah. Look forward to that, hopefully. And until we get there, take care of yourselves, alright?